Hey Quattro Watches family, just want to thank every single subscriber. Please do subscribe, like, and share. Today, we're going to check out the Zenith El Primero Grand Phase, Open Moon Phase, Sun Day and Night Indicator, Chronograph Tachymeter with complete open back. So, and the white fume dial. So my job today is to convince you that this is one of the greatest watches ever made, one of the greatest movements ever made. So let's say you're in the market, for instance, for a really nice chronograph, and you go on to, let's just say, Time Zone, which I've actually been banned from, but it's okay, I can still go through the news. And if you do like the news, let me know. We can go through a lot of them. So say you come across this Patek Philippe with the month and the day. Clearly there's a chronograph. Oh look, that kind of matches the track, the outer track. And then when you look at FP Journe, you say, oh hey, that kind of matches too, the outer track. So you're thinking, okay, that's obviously what class is, right? Because FP Journe, Patek Philippe, two of the best in the world. You're scrolling through and you're just in love with this Patek Philippe. You say, you know what? This is the watch for me. Forget Rolex, forget any other brand. I just want something with the chronograph, a moon phase, a date. This is a grand date. So you say, this is for me. Look at the piston pushers, meaning these chronograph pushers, a nice knurled crown. This is obviously a split-second movement chronograph, meaning, so like this watch, it just has one hand here with the Zenith star in blue. It doesn't break off the seconds. But okay, it's a Patek Philippe. It's has a white gold case, and then look at the back. Look at that. That is, you say, this is what I want. Then you look at the back of this watch, and you say, I mean, it's no Patek Philippe, but it still is a automatic. I don't see any winder back here. So maybe it's a manual wind. Oh, it is. It says right here, manual wind. So you go through, you look at the hands, you look at the hour markers, and you say, this is the watch I want. Then you come down, you keep reading the article, and you're convinced. You're convinced. Like, how can you get better? Look at the hour track here, just like here, the hour track all the way around in the inside loop. Looks like a railroad tracks. So you keep scrolling, and you're like, this is it. This is the watch I want, until you come to the price, and the price is $315,000. So most laymen's like you and me, we won't be able to afford $315,000, but you still love the hobby. And you really don't care what other people think or say, because if you do, you'd be trying to go for this new Rolex. Just dropped today, Rolex Deep Sea Challenge RX Titanium. So, let me convince you why you need one of these. First of all, this is a fume dial. I don't know if you can see here, but see how it goes light and then dark? So it actually plays in the light. And when I first saw this in the store at Bandari Jewelers, 123 Yorkville Avenue, Toronto, I just couldn't get over how beautiful it was. I mean, it has the purple and the blue silicon escapement underneath the balance wheel here. And there was a controversy when I first got into watches, because my favorite watch was the Ulysse Nardin Freak, and that had a silicon escapement. And you learn in life never to judge anybody, because some of the more conservative watch guys would say, no, it's the right answer to the wrong question. They like traditional steel parts. But then Zenith did it. And then Patek Philippe did it. And many other brands have followed. Obviously, it must be cheaper, but for me, it looks nice. I love seeing the purple and the blue with the bronze in the back or gold, whatever that is, and the perlage on the balance cock. To me, with all the colors and everything, it just works. And I truly, you hear a lot of people say, oh, it's ugly, it's ugly. But if you like it, who cares what anyone thinks? Think about it, man. You're born with nothing, you die with nothing. Who cares what other people think? Just have fun. Spread good karma, spread good vibes. So, when we come to the Daytona, which we will talk about later, and look at the Rainbow Daytona hands, and look at these hands, it's quite clear that Zenith had some influence on this piece. So let's get onto the history of the brand so we understand what we're dealing with here. Founded in 1865, yes, 1865, and Ulysse Nardon was 1846. It was founded by Georges Favre-Jacquot. Zenith became one of the most respected manufacturers in precision and won many, many prizes and awards. The success of the company kept growing until 1911. After the First World War began, they developed wristwatches including alarm and chronograph functions used by many navy and militaries of the world. There was a huge demand for the three-hander watch, which is just second hand, hour hand, and minute hand. But no automatic chronographs had been manufactured in the 40s and 50s. And by automatic, I mean with this counterweight here, and that actually winds the watch in the back. So usually you have to manual wind, like that Patek Philippe we saw earlier. In 1962, they began developing this first automatic chronograph in history, and they wanted to launch it in 1965. But because of the complication and, I mean, the way they made it, which, by the way, looks beautiful, even to this day, as if it's a piece of art, they did not complete it until 1969, which is fine because it was still, in my opinion, even today, one of the best chronographs available, because it does 1/10 of a second. There's 36,000 vibrations. Most other watches, they can only record 1/8 of a second. This also has the grand date, which, on a Rolex, they just put that big fish bubble because it's so hard to make a grand date. It has to connect with one little screw. I can show you how it works. This is how the grand date works. Instead of considering the easier option to add a chronograph module to the base movement, Zenith had a more ambitious plan. The chronograph function had to be fully integrated with the mechanism and actuated by a column wheel rather than the easier to implement cam. And to make things even more challenging, the beating frequency of the chronograph had to be high enough to make it the most accurate chronographed wristwatch in the world, measuring 1/10 of a second. With all these requirements, the bar was raised so high that the project could not be completed in time for 1965, and instead was completed in 1969. In 1969, on January 10th, Zenith announced the launch of the first fully integrated high-frequency automatic chronograph movement, codenamed the 3019 PHC. This movement was renamed the El Primero, which means the first in Spanish. And I remember once even seeing they even strapped it to a big plane and flew it from London to America, and the watch was fine. And they put it in the wheel well of the plane, and it made it all the way. So there was a race between Seiko, and they had a group partnership with Hoyer, Breitling, Hamilton, Dubois, all running to make this first integrated chronograph. There's dispute about who did it first. Maybe Seiko came to the market, but Zenith announced it. In my humble opinion, once again, though, when you look at this chronograph and you look at other chronographs which are still in production from this time, from this race, this is just art. Like, look how beautiful it is. The barrel and the way it's made. This particular example has all the Côte de Genève, the blue screws, the perlage, you can see the black polish, and it just looks incredible. Just from an aesthetic point of view. So who cares who won the race first? This is a Zenith, 36,000 vibrations. And unfortunately, there was, the quartz crisis was coming. So that pretty much killed business for everybody. And it was like a complete invasion. In 1970, 16 Swiss brands, including Zenith, started equipping Swiss-made quartz. And the Swiss were quickly joined by the Americans, Motorola, Texas Instruments, but none of them could do what the Japanese could do. So obviously that wasn't good for business, and eventually Zenith sold to the Zenith Radio Corporation, which was a manufacturer based in Chicago. And I personally never heard of them, but I guess they're an old TV company. But the management of the company had lost confidence in the future of mechanical watchmaking, and they bet on quartz. But like Fred VanVleet of the Raptors, you always got to bet on yourself. So in 1970, well, I guess in the late 60s, early 70s, they decided to get rid of all the machinery. In 1976, they said, let's sell everything and just get the scrap metal. But luckily, there was a guy named Charles Vermont who saved the company by ordering everything up to the attic. And he kept all the machines and all the machinery they need and the tools, which would be worth millions. And there's a quote of him that he says, without being against progress, I note that the world often goes through various cycles. You are wrong to believe the automatic mechanical chronograph will die out completely. I am thus convinced that your company will one day benefit from the whims and fashion that the world has always known. And he did keep everything. The value of keeping everything was immense because, where would we be if they didn't have it today? And he managed to save 150 presses, small tools. By 1976, Zenith had lost most of its staff producing watches powered by ETA, quartz movements, or citizen quartz movements. And it was super rare to have a mechanical watch. The company was not profitable at all, and in 1978, Zenith Radio Corporation sold Zenith watches to 3 Swiss manufacturers, including a man named Paul Castella, a Le Loc entrepreneur, very much focused on preserving the jobs in the region and wanted to continue the heritage presented by Zenith. By the early 1980s, the demand for mechanical watches started again. And with this came the opportunity to re-release the El Primero and restart the production. Now this is where Rolex comes in, because Rolex decided to update its Daytona with an automatic chronograph movement. And mind you, this was a very hard thing to do. You can't just, wake up one day and say, I want to make something, and then come out with something like this. So Rolex had a huge order, and the rumor is that there was actually a man from Zenith that would work inside the Rolex factory in a little white room, and he would modify each and every single Daytona to Rolex specifications. Rolex did not want the 5 Hertz 36,000 vibrations per hour frequency, and they reduced that to 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is what you find in most modern day watches today. Rolex had such a big order that thanks to them, that really helped keep the company going. And which brings us up to 2003. You know, they had this CEO who created a lot of controversy, but he did this. I believe his name, I can't remember right now, but we'll look it up after. Let me know in the comments. And he did this open phase, which got a lot of hate. But, you know, Fume, like I said, Grand 8, that Patek Philippe we looked at earlier, you see that this is really, really top watchmaking. And before we get there, let's look at an original Zenith advertisement from when they came out. And you can see here what they're selling. Automatic start and stop push, pull the crown out, world's first automatic non-stop second hand, hour recorder, instantaneous day change at midnight, the only chronograph with 1/10 precision per second. So now, just to cap off, I'm just going to tell you my personal experience with this watch. Really, it is stunning. Moon phase is so cool. You can track the moon. Then you have this sundial here. So like, see, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon and the sun is exactly where it should be. And then even like in real life, you know, when the sun is setting, it's so pretty and you see all the different colors. You get that effect here. As the sun goes, you can see the moon phase. And you know, Tim Mosso, probably one of the best reviewers on YouTube, he did this long time ago for his Watch You Want, the company he was working for. And he said, this is the type of watch that you'll always find new things every day. And it's so true because, for instance, like this, I barely even noticed. I just realized a couple of weeks ago, that's so well done, this. And then the round, where the moon phase is, this like guilloche bras, whatever it is. And every day you just notice things like these blue screws, you know, like I mentioned earlier, the hour track here, the fact that it's a Grand 8, it never gets old. And what I find from watch guys, you get a lot of respect. Not even watch guys, people who just see you and you're not wearing a Rolex, so you don't seem like you're, you know, you just seem like a watch enthusiast. And sure, people can call it ugly, whatever they want, but to me, it really truly is a beautiful piece. They don't produce it anymore. You can find it for about $12,000 on Chrono 24. And I highly recommend that you do check it out. It's 45 millimeters, polished and brushed lugs. Obviously, I'm very terrible watch connoisseur because I scratch up on my watches. I wear them very hard. When you switch up the straps, completely changes the watch. And yeah, that's about it. That's what I wanted to share with you. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have this watch. Let me know what you think about Zenith. And obviously no disrespect to anybody, but come on, man. This is the GOAT. If not the GOAT, then at least one of the greatest ever made chronograph movements. Thanks, everyone. Take care.